The American Midwest is often described as empty, flat, peaceful, but emptiness has a way of holding on to things. Out here, violence doesn't disappear, it settles. It seeps into the land, into the walls of houses, into the stories that people tell in low voices long after dark. In Villisca, Iowa, there's a white farmhouse that has stood for more than a century. Children once laughed inside it. Then one night, no one did. 8 people went to sleep. None of them woke up. And some say something never left. This is Haunted Heartland, and tonight we're telling the full story of the Villisca Axe Murder House. Not just what happened there, but what lingered, and why this place still refuses to be quiet.
Shadows creep where the old road's been. Echoes call from the river's end. Ghostly tales in the midnight air. Secrets hide, but the land don't care. Whispers rise from the hollow ground. Footsteps fade with no trace or sound. Moonlight paints what the sun won't show. Stories lost in the undertow. You're listening to Haunted Heartland, where the past wanna go. Its head, every voice in the winds a ghost. Every step is a haunted home.
Villisca in 1912 was the Heartland in miniature. Roughly 2,500 residents, churches anchoring every neighborhood, people who believed their town was too decent for true evil. Doors were left unlocked. Children moved freely from house to house. Josiah Moore embodied that trust. A successful businessman, reliable, known. His wife Sarah was deeply religious, the kind of woman whose faith shaped her entire sense of safety. Their children, Herman, Mary Catherine, Boyd, and Paul, were typical Iowa kids of the era, curious, loud, full of motion. The Moore house itself sat quietly along East 2nd Street. Nothing about it stood out. That's important, because the most terrifying places rarely announce themselves. Sunday, June 9th, 1912. Sunday was church day. The Moores attended services as usual. That evening, after a children's program, 2 sisters, Lena and Ina Stillinger, asked to stay the night. Sarah Moore agreed. 8 people walked into the Moore house that night. The windows were open to let in the summer air. Nothing felt wrong. Sometime after midnight, someone entered the home. There was no forced entry. The killer began upstairs. Josiah and Sarah Moore were attacked first as they slept. The weapon was an axe, likely taken from the home itself. The blows were not hurried. They were deliberate. The killer moved methodically, room by room. Each victim was struck in their bed. Investigators later noticed something chilling. After each murder, the victim's face was covered. Mirrors were covered. Windows were draped. Even food was used to obscure the reflections. This was not random violence. It was controlled. Afterward, the killer washed in the kitchen. Food was prepared. The axe was wiped clean and returned. Whoever did this felt safe. When morning came, something felt wrong. The Moore family didn't emerge. A neighbor, Mary Peckham, approached the house. What she saw through the window would follow her for the rest of her life. Authorities arrived. Then the town did. Hundreds of people walked through the house. Evidence was destroyed almost immediately. The Heartland learned a hard lesson that day. Evil doesn't need permission. The Villisca murders didn't exist in isolation. Across the Midwest, axe murderers were being reported. Families locked their doors, slept with weapons nearby. The idea that a killer could slip in and vanish terrified the country. Suspects flooded in. Frank Jones, Reverend George Kelly, who confessed, recanted, and was never convicted. Drifters, outsiders. In the end, justice never came, and without justice, wounds stay open. More families moved into the house. None stayed long. Children described figures at the foot of their beds. Footsteps echoed through empty rooms. One family fled in the middle of the night. The house earned a reputation. As paranormal investigation became popular, Villisca became a destination. Visitors reported children's voices, a man whispering near the stairs, sudden illness, physical contact, and some described the energy as angry, especially upstairs. By the early 2000s, the Villisca Axe Murder House stopped being just a place people visited during the day. People began staying the night. What follows are first-hand style accounts drawn from repeated visitor reports, investigator notes, and overnight logs, presented here as they are most often described. The overnight timeline, dusk to dawn, 7:30 to 9 p.m., arrival and unease. Quote, as soon as we unlocked the door, I remember thinking the air felt wrong, heavier, almost like walking into humidity indoors. Guests described the first hour as deceptively calm. Nothing happened at first, which somehow made it worse. Equipment is set up, cameras placed, EMF meters laid on floors. Many report an early sensation of being watched before the darkness fully settles. 9 p.m. to 11 p.m., the house responds. Activity often begins steadily. Quote, we heard what sounded like someone pacing upstairs. When we went to check, no one was there. Another person said, one of our flashlights shut off on its own. It had fresh batteries. Cold spots form near the children's rooms. EMF meters spike briefly, then fall. The house feels alert. 11 p.m. to 12:30 a.m. Voices and movement. This is when voices are most often reported. Quote, I heard a little girl whisper right next to my ear. I thought someone was joking. No one was. Quote, it sounded like two kids talking under their breath, like they didn't want to be heard. In several cases, investigators also asked questions aloud. Quote, we asked how many were there. When we played it back later, a child's voice said, 8. Object shift. Quote, the toy we placed on the bed was on the floor when we came back. 12:30 to 2 a.m. Escalation. This is when the emotional tone changes. Quote, I started feeling angry for no reason. It didn't feel like my own emotion. Someone else said, I got nauseous so fast that I thought I was going to pass out. Cameras drain, doors close. The chair we left in the middle of the room was on its side. The house no longer feels curious. It feels confrontational. 2 a.m. to 3 a.m. The stairs. This is the most feared hour. I felt something shove me from behind on the stairs. I almost fell. There was pressure on my back, like a hand. Motion sensors trigger in sequence, up, then down. 3 a.m. to 4 a.m., the witching hour. Many guests awake abruptly at exactly 3 a.m. I woke up convinced that someone was standing over me. I couldn't move. I knew something was there. Footsteps are heard moving room to room. The bedroom door closed on its own and latched. This is the hour most associated with panic. 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. Departure or endurance. Some guests leave, quietly. We didn't talk much, we just wanted to be outside. Those who stay describe exhaustion. It felt like the house was finally settling, but not asleep. After sunrise, the release. Nearly everyone reports the same thing once outside. The headache stopped immediately. It felt like stepping out of deep water. The house goes still again, waiting. Nearly everyone who enters the house describes the same sensation, a pressure change. The air feels heavier. Sound behaves differently. People often pause just inside the doorway, not because they're scared yet, but because something feels off. Some describe it as being watched. Others say it feels like stepping into a memory that doesn't belong to them. The children's bedrooms are where many experiences begin and where reports have become disturbingly specific. Investigators staying overnight have reported hearing a small voice say, "Mom," from the corner of the room, even when no one else was present. On multiple occasions, visitors have heard what sounds like two children whispering back and forth, stopping abruptly when acknowledged. One paranormal team recorded an EVP after asking, "How many of you are there?" The playback revealed a childlike voice responding clearly, 8. Another investigator reported feeling the tug of a blanket while lying on the floor, as if someone were trying to pull it away. Several guests have claimed that toys placed in the children's rooms were found moved or stacked differently by morning. Skeptics argue environmental noise. Believers argue intent. The staircase is one of the most consistently reported hotspots in the house. Visitors frequently describe the sensation of being rushed as if someone is coming up behind them. One investigator, while descending the stairs alone, reported being shoved hard enough to stumble forward several steps. Another guest described a distinct handprint sensation between her shoulder blades, pressure and then release. Motion sensors placed on the stairs have been triggered when no one was physically present, often in clusters, suggesting movement up and down the steps. Whatever moves here doesn't stay still for long. Unlike many haunted locations, Villisca is often described as confrontational. Guests have reported sudden nosebleeds, intense headaches, and waves of nausea that subside immediately upon leaving the house. One overnight guest described being overcome with anger, an emotion that they said felt intrusive and unprovoked. Another investigator claimed their camera battery drained from full to dead in minutes, repeatedly, only inside the house. Doors have been reported slamming without airflow. A chair placed deliberately in the middle of a room was later found on its side. The house does not feel passive, it feels reactive. Those who manage to fall asleep inside the Villisca house often report eerily similar experiences. Multiple guests have described waking suddenly to the feeling of someone standing over them, close enough to sense weight and presence. Several have reported waking at exactly 3 a.m., convinced they heard footsteps moving from room to room. One overnight group claimed a bedroom door closed slowly on its own while they slept, latching shut. Others report violent, graphic dreams that stop immediately once they leave the property. Sleep in this house never feels like rest. Many overnight guests don't make it to sunrise. They pack up quietly, but they don't always talk about what happened. But they leave, and almost all of them say the same thing afterwards. They didn't feel welcome. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, the Villisca Axe Murder House raises a question the Heartland knows well. Can a place remember? And if it can, does it ever forget? The Midwest doesn't scream its horrors, it holds them. In white houses, on quiet streets, in towns that still leave their doors unlocked at night. If you ever find yourself driving through rural Iowa and you pass a quiet house glowing under a porch light, remember this. The Heartland listens, and some houses answer back. I'm your host, and this has been Haunted Heartland.
You're listening to Haunted Heartland, where the past only go. Said every voice in the wind's a ghost.